And so on the morning of July 20th, 1988, I was born. Of course, Dr. Qureshi, who delivered me, noticed that I was missing a leg, but she didn't say anything, at least not to my mother. She went out to find Becky and Mark in the waiting room and said ominously, "There's a problem." She led them into a room separate from the nursery where I lay on a little bed. As she pulled back the sheet, my poor grandfather nearly fainted. He became extremely lightheaded, forcing Becky and Dr. Qureshi to find him a chair. "Do you want me to tell her?" the doctor asked my grandparents once the color returned to Mark's face. "Or would you like to tell her yourselves?" "I'll tell her," said Becky. Both she and Mark were crying when they entered the recovery room, where their daughter lay on a gurney, groggy with anesthetic. That kind of woke me up a little bit, my mom remembers. "You had a baby boy," Becky told her daughter, "but there's something we want to tell you about him." When her own children were small and asked her where babies came from, Becky would tell them they'd been sitting on a bench in heaven and that God decided which family to send them to. God had this baby sitting on a little bench in heaven, missing a leg, and he chose our family to take care of this boy. Mark was more to the point. "He's missing his piernita," his little leg. My mother's response was visceral, primal. "I want to see my son." "He was a beautiful little boy, and precious, just precious," she recalls for a reporter in 2011. "I didn't see his disability. I saw my son, a part of me." In the hours and days that followed, Judy was approached by several well-intentioned people who congratulated her on giving birth and asked how she was feeling. Adorable as I was, she was told that a special needs child is always a far greater burden. And she was so young, with her whole life ahead of her. Had she considered putting me up for adoption? She shut them down immediately. Not happening. End of discussion. Judy was all in with me from the beginning. She talks about not seeing my disability, looking past it, but there's no doubt that my missing leg fired some primal impulse deep inside her, kind of a maternal instinct on steroids. I mean, in those first few days, she didn't want people to see me. She hid me from sight, or kept me swaddled in a blanket. Mom was worried that if people saw that I was different, they'd think of me differently, treat me differently. She was already determined that I would lead a normal life, that I wouldn't be excluded, that I would not receive or need special treatment. She was just a kid herself, but she intuitively understood that the best way to protect me was by not always protecting me. She knew that the fewer limits she set for me, and that I set for myself, the happier I would be. Out of all her siblings, Mom was closest to her brother Andy, who was just a year older. They grew up in a nice split-level house on Bluefield Avenue in La Mirada. They had a backyard pool and a park nearby. My mother loved that house and has said that if she could move anywhere, she'd move back there. She tagged along with Andy, rode bikes with him, played baseball in the park with him and his friends. She was a tomboy, which helps explain why it wasn't really in her nature to be overly protective of me. She didn't believe in sheltering or confining me. I slept in a crib in Judy's room. With Becky generously providing childcare, Judy went back to high school for her senior year. Mom, as I mentioned, was all in, fully embracing the idea of raising a child, in theory. But the reality was that she was only 16 years old and somewhat unclear on the concept of being a mom. It took Judy a few months to fully grasp the scope of her new responsibility. With built-in babysitting from my grandparents, thanks again, Becky and Mark, she kept an active social life. But things came to a head one night when my mom and some girlfriends were cruising Whittier Avenue. My mother lost track of her friends and ended up zipping up and down the avenue on the back of some guy's motorcycle. At 2 a.m, she had to call her dad for a ride home. Just as Mark arrived, this James Dean wannabe popped a wheelie, then went speeding into the night. My grandfather was not pleased. When my mom came down to breakfast the next morning, her folks were sitting at the kitchen table waiting for her. They made her an offer. She was still a young girl, they told her. Perhaps she was too young to take on the burden of motherhood. They offered to adopt me and raise me as her brother. It was a pivotal moment in my mother's life. She gave their offer some thought, but said no. It was like a switch flipped for her, Becky remembers. "He's my son. It's up to me to raise him," she replied. "He's a part of me."